Hello YouTube, it's Hauntown here, and today I'll be doing a quick review on Hades Zero, a survival horror game that came out in June of 2025, but whose retro heart belongs to the past, all the way back to the late 90s. Hades Zero thrusts you into the role of Nick Smith, a security agent that bears an uncanny resemblance to Leon Kennedy, who must delve into the depths of a massive research center complex owned by a shady corporation that is not Umbrella, as he searches for a friend of his following a mysterious biotechnological disaster that has resulted in the place crawling with all sorts of mutated and zombified abominations. Without delving into spoilers, the story is somewhat generic to an extent, though I'll admit it ended up being much more ambitious than initially anticipated given some interesting philosophical and moral themes that it chose to touch upon. Unfortunately, it didn't manage to live up to the potential of its premise, since it never really bothered tackling any of the questions that it raised, instead choosing to go out with a whimper rather than a bang, resulting in a sense of meaninglessness as my final takeaway. Granted, the game is about 2.5 hours long and there's only so much narrative you can fit into that length, but this still came off as the first third of a survival horror experience rather than a complete standalone title. Now, Hades Zero fully embraces the classic roots of the genre, which is something I love. From the retro PS1 graphics to the fixed camera angles, optional tank controls, inventory management system, and cozy safe rooms with relaxing music, all the way to the use of ink ribbons to save, as well as the need for health item and ammo conservation, the game took me back to my childhood when I was 10 years old and starting Resident Evil 2 for the first time, not knowing the magnificence I was about to experience. That being said, there are some downsides to this approach, which are quite accentuated in Hades Zero. For one, as much as I loved fixed camera angles, there were several instances here where they made my life a living hell as they would change abruptly, effectively messing around with my directional controls and having me doing rounds around myself, which was a serious issue when paired with the fact that a lot of the time, enemies were off screen and would get some cheap shots at me due to lack of perspective, especially some of the faster ones that were difficult to dodge. This leads me to my second gripe, which is that enemy numbers become ridiculously crowded as you progress through the story, with you eventually having to deal with throngs of monsters on your trail while in constant danger of getting swarmed by them. Having that sense of perpetual threat is good and all, but unless you're decent at avoiding them, which was my main strategy most of the time, you should prepare to waste a lot of ammo in order to deal with these bastards, which will definitely make things difficult for you in the late game. On a positive note, there was some solid enemy diversity here which I thoroughly enjoyed, with the exception of these fast-moving meatheads that gave me a run for my money, no pun intended. Another thing that miffed me a bit, though not to a huge extent, was that the environment demonstrated a significant lack of visual variety. Like, I get it, we're in the bowels of a top-secret research facility that hides God knows what, but does everything have to be in shades of grey and brown? Also, way too many empty corridors and large vacant spaces. That's not to say that there weren't some awesome vistas to go through, but more environmental detail would have gone a long way. On that note, dear lord, some areas were darker than Satan's butthole. I mean, what is this here, my guy? Just give me a flashlight or something. Puzzles were okay for the most part, though there weren't that many of them. Also, screw the clock puzzle, dude. To this day, I still have no idea how this is actually solved, even after having all the clues to solve it. There's also a basic map overview here, but it lacks quality of life elements such as showing doors or puzzle locations, though to be honest, the overall setting is quite compact and I never felt lost, so make of that what you will. On a final note, I would have liked a bit more bosses to fight against, since there wasn't much to see here in that regard. Now, I understand I'm probably coming across as a negative Nancy with my feedback so far, which is why I want to clarify that I actually did mostly enjoy my time with Hades Zero despite its downsides, since the nostalgia vibes are strong with this one. I just wish the game had spent some more time in the oven, since, with a more satisfying narrative conclusion and better environmental design, it could have ended up being something special. If you're a survival horror connoisseur, give it a go, though I would recommend waiting for a steep sale since its full price doesn't really justify its length. As it stands right now, on a scale of S to F, Hades Zero secures a solid C+.